in a short while. As you can see, Julius Malema, EFF leader, is delivering his Freedom Day message. Let's listen in.
The transition to online forms of learning will see many poor students and historically black institutions left behind. Our lack of technological and scientific development has meant that we are unable to develop effective measures to curb the spread of the coronavirus and protect our economy. As a result, we are playing no proactive role in the development of a vaccine, which leaves us at the mercy of the likes of capitalists like Bill Gates. Our healthcare sector faces a possible collapse. It is a sector that is understaffed, under-resourced, with many necessary equipment such as ventilators and functional ICUs non-existent. The structural problems have faced our country since 1994 are worsened and deepened by the impact of this virus. It has revealed to many that the current economic status quo is not sustainable. Fellow fighters, today marks a day of historic shift in the politics of South Africa. It is on this historic day, 27 April 1994, that South Africa participated in its first democratic elections, where all citizens, black and white, were allowed to participate in the election of their own government. The political right came after decades of struggle by our liberation heroes who fought both the British and apartheid regime for the right to govern their own affairs, their own people, and their own land. In 1994, black South Africans who had been battered and bruised by the racist apartheid regime took a stand. On this day, black South Africans removed inhuman government of Hendrik Verwoerd, D.F. Malan, Peg Botha, and the racist F.W. de Klerk. It was on this political ticket that Africans from Soweto, Mitchell's Plain, Botshabelo began to chart a way forward for a new South Africa where the will of the majority will be represented. It is a path that was reached through sacrifice, sweat, and blood of forefathers and mothers who gave their all in the fight for their right to determine their future. The 1994 dispensation came after decades of political struggle, and ultimately it led to the negotiated settlement that gave us our constitutional democracy. It is important for us to remember that 1994 did not come as a result of the goodwill of the leaders of apartheid regime, as many would like to have us believe today. 1994 was a product of resistance by the leaders of the great nations of Africa, such as Shaka Zulu, Skukuni, Hintsa, and Mushweshwe. It was a product of the blood of Steve Biko, the ideas of Onkgopotse Tiro, the intelligence of Z.K. Matthews, the resilience of Robert Sobukwe, the bravery of Chris Hani, and the fearlessness of Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela. It was the armed struggle led by the likes of Chris Hani, Sabelo Phama, Jafta Masemula, and Mama Nomvo Boi that confronted a regime that used violence to oppress our people with determination. It was the unity of students, workers, and religious leaders who, with stones in their hands, refused to betray Africa and fought for independence even when it meant they would lose their lives. Who can forget the role of the young lions of the 80s who responded positively to O.R. Tambo's call to render South Africa ungovernable and apartheid machinery unworkable? The democratic dispensation of 1994 is a product of this and many other unsung heroes, not the kindness of racists who succumbed to revolutionary spirit of resistance. It is a day that has come to be known as Freedom Day, as it was a day that was meant to be the first step towards the liberation of our people. We must remember this day and celebrate its victories while also reflecting on its shortcomings. The 27th of April is remembered as a day where we achieved political freedom after years of negotiations between the liberation movement and the apartheid regime. As revolutionaries, it is important that we remember this day as an important transition to a democratic dispensation, but not where we achieved independence. It was a nation such as Burkina Faso, where Thomas Sankara seized the land and built a productive agricultural and industrial economy and refused to pay colonial debt, where independence was achieved. It was in Ghana, where Kwame Nkrumah built economy with Africans at the center, championing calls for continental unity for independent Africa, where independence was achieved. It was in the economically sabotaged Zimbabwe where Robert Mugabe enforced the agreements of the Lancaster Agreement after being betrayed by Britain, where independence was achieved. In South Africa, the 27th of April is a day where we achieved political freedom, but not economic and independence. Many sacrifices and compromises were made which saw the economy remain in the hands of the oppressor. The likes of President Nelson Mandela did this with the hope that political power will be used to wrestle our economy from the hands of the white minority. Unfortunately, this has not been done. Those who control our apartheid economy use their power to control our political landscape. They stifle all efforts that will see the freedom of black people from their position as gardeners and domestic workers in our economy. We therefore remain permanent interns of white monopoly capital abused by racists in their homes, in their workplaces, and in society in general. As all of this happens, the liberation movement has lost its teeth and become ally of those who make our people to be servants in our own land. It continues to fulfill its mandate as a mediator between African people and white minority rule, using political power to protect the interest of imperialism. It is a liberation movement that has fallen to greed, selfishness, and corruption. It is a liberation movement that has failed to use its political power to industrialize our economy, build independent capacity in all sectors, and create a developmental nation of the wealth of the land. As early as 1900, the land of black people was taken from them through violent colonial dispossession and subjugation of our people to governments and laws that never took part in establishing. Despite these realities, we still have a constitution in South Africa that says that those who wish to reclaim their land should only reclaim the land that was taken after June 1913. The reality is that by 1913, more than 80% of land that belonged to Africans was taken through wars of dispossession. The consequence of landlessness of our people are still living with us to this day, because black people and Africans in particular are the most affected by high levels of poverty, unemployment, and homelessness. The struggle for the return of the land is at the center of our struggle and cannot and should not be suspended even at the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. The coronavirus pandemic has brought into sharp focus the landlessness of our people. Our people are cramped in informal settlement townships, and majority do not have small pieces of land to plant crops during this difficult period. The gains of 1994 have therefore become useless, and South Africans continue to witness a degeneration of their conditions. We are today going to make some key reflections on corona pandemic, its impact on the economy, and what has been government response thus far. From the beginning, we as the EFF have pledged our support to government. We fully support the lockdown because, unlike many other viruses and disease, corona is a highly contagious disease which easily spreads from human to human and sometimes can infect people just by touching surface where it is. We call on all our people to remain disciplined and obedient to all the regulations that have been announced by government. We should maintain high standards of hygiene and must not leave our homes even when it is not necessary. We know that this is a difficult period, but all available evidences has demonstrated that corona is highly infectious and can easily transmit from one person to another. The corona outbreak has brought into sharpest focus the economic, social, and spatial inequalities that exist between black and white people in South Africa. Even when they want to be in self-isolation, our people do not have spacious houses to isolate into because they stay in shacks. Even when they want to keep maximum hygiene standards, a huge number of our people do not have access to clean water. The coronavirus has exposed sharply the economic freedom fighters has been raising since its formation. The outbreak of corona has demonstrated that every nation needs stable, dependable, and capable government with sovereign capacity to generate own revenue and will to build independent industrial and manufacturing capacity to produce critical goods, equipment, and services. Neoliberal economists and politicians have for years been arguing for a small and weak government which must only administer regulations when the private sector provides all other services, including healthcare, education, and all other critical services. The current corona pandemic has demonstrated that the private sector cannot be relied upon for the provision of basic services for all our people, particularly health services. Big business, whether black or white, is not loyal to any nation and does not care about the people. They are only loyal to profits. The coronavirus has demonstrated that big capitalists from Stellenbosch and Oppenheimers are not friends of government and are not at all defined by patriotism. The patriotism of big business in South Africa and everywhere in the world is towards profit maximization, not towards a people. That is why even in these times of need, big businesses continue to be self-seeking and their contribution comes nowhere close to the minerals, wealth, and cheap labor of the people they have exploited over the years. The coronavirus has demonstrated that politicians from the ruling party cannot be trusted with the lives of our people. That is why they steal and loot food even in the darkest hour of need. They distribute food and water in partisan way and worse at a time through factional means during these difficult times, when we are supposed to put aside our differences and unite against the invisible enemy. The coronavirus has demonstrated that the slow pace of delivering of communications and infrastructure and usage of technology, as we called for in our manifesto, has huge impact on the education of particularly poor and rural masses. The coronavirus has also vindicated the progressive policies of the economic freedom fighters on the question of land, jobs, industrialization, education, social grants, and constant provision of quality health care for all. As a result, we are going to present concrete short and long-term solutions on what is to be done. The following criteria will be covered: healthcare provision, social assistance, education, and the economy, solidarity with African continent, and poor nations. Some of the interventions we'll announce here have been contained in the many media statements we've issued and many letters we have written to the President and members of the executive. All public representatives have committed a third of our monthly salaries to fight against coronavirus. What this means is that for 3 months, the EFF councillors, members of provincial legislature, and members of parliament will have contributed millions into the fight against coronavirus. So while councillors from other political parties, MPLs and MPs are stealing food parcels from poor people and are arrested for drinking and driving, violations of the lockdown regulations by driving with alcohol in their cars, we in the EFF are sacrificing our salaries so that we can defeat the coronavirus. We will be directly involved in interventions against extreme levels of poverty and negligence by government, and this will be on case-by-case basis. Our public representatives in Metsimaholo are at the forefront of provision of basic water and other essential services to the people of Metsimaholo. Our public representatives have been helping in different informal settlement throughout the country, and this informal settlement must be made formal. They have been fighting nonsensical evictions carried out by municipalities. Our public representatives in Cape Town have been preventing municipality from evicting poor people from their areas of residence. Our public representatives have been involved in overseeing the work carried by government and have opened many police cases against acts of corruption by politicians from the ruling party. The EFF's proposal and recommendations are therefore informed by the real struggles of our people in communities, because that is where we are. Our proposals and interventions as the EFF are aimed at saving lives, and we agree with the observation made by the President of Ghana that whilst we all have the capacity and knowledge to revive collapsed economies, we all don't know how to breathe life into dead bodies. We must make sure that we continue to be responsible. In terms of health provisions, we as the EFF believe that government should use this period to build permanent healthcare systems and infrastructure that will respond to all needs of our people. Instead of temporary hospitals, government should build an extended network of hospitals, clinics, polyclinics in all wards, townships, informal settlements, and villages. Government must make sure that some of the hotels, lodges, and other hospitality infrastructure must be converted into quality healthcare facilities, and some must be permanent for provision of primary healthcare to our people. The screening and testing of communities must not be done only during this period, but must form part of South Africa's health system going forward, including outreach campaigns to educate our people about preventative measures, as it is the case now with coronavirus. Government should convert existing government infrastructure that is not being used for anything into accessible quality healthcare facilities. This should not be temporary, because South Africa's health burden is one of the most devastating health burdens in the world. The population of South Africa is less than 1% of the global population, but more than 15% of HIV/AIDS related deaths come from South Africa. The defeat of corona must also mean that we deal with the heavy disease burden that defines our country. In the same way many countries built military reserves post-World War II, we should build healthcare reserves where ordinary citizens, professionals in other fields are trained, capacitated in the essential of primary health care. Soldiers, teachers, police, councillors, members of provincial legislatures, members of parliament must be provided with basic training to administer primary health care, such as diseases detection, screening, and administering of first aid care to all people. South Africa should build its pharmaceutical capacity to produce generic medicines and vaccines. We are aware that sometime the Cuban Center for Genetic Engineering has attempted to build relations with South Africa, and that was not given maximum attention. Now is the time to revive and strengthen the relationship with Cuba and build pharmaceutical capacity to produce our own medicine, not only for South Africa, but for the entire African continent. Our country currently imports more than 30 billion of pharmaceutical products from other parts of the world. It is high time we begin to produce our own medicines. South Africa should begin to locally manufacture and produce medical equipment, including ventilators. The South African government currently owns Denel, which produces high-tech fighting machines and aeroplanes. That capacity must be directed towards the production of medical equipment. How do we explain that we can build fighter jets in Denel, fighting flying machines, but we cannot build a ventilator which helps people to breathe? Why do we have capacity to produce machines, guns to fight wars, but cannot produce machines to save lives? The CSIR should be given maximum support and capacity to produce medical equipment, and the CSIR supported programs to produce test kits by black South Africans must be given maximum support. There is currently no sound reason why our country cannot produce its own masks, which are needed in the containment of coronavirus. We need to build local industrial capacity to produce our own medical equipment. The corona pandemic must be a clarion call that we need to build inward industrial capacity and not completely rely on the West and East for the provision of basic necessities. Since our formation as the economic freedom fighters, we have called for the doubling of social grants for all people, child support grant, disability grants, and all other grants that are provided by the state for those who cannot help themselves. We fully welcome the increase of social grants and the introduction of basic income grant for unemployed people. Our demand in this regard is simple. These increases must be made permanent. The old age grant must never be reduced and must instead be increased to 2,800 per month. The child support grant must not be reduced, but increased instead to be 800 per month. The basic income grant must not be reversed and must instead be increased to 1,000 per month. These interventions will play a significant role in boosting local economic activities and in the reduction of poverty for our people, not only during this period, but forever. We want to caution the current government that if you want peace in this country, you should keep the basic income grant for all our people who do not have jobs and are not employed, and it must be increased. Some provincial governments